Today we're going to be talking about exponents and how we can simplify expressions that have exponents in them. So we're going to first start off by talking about what we call the rules of exponents, and there are 4 of them. So the first rule of exponents is that when you have the same base, so let's say you have this here, x to the m times x to the n, so they're both x as the base, then you can combine these by adding the exponents, m plus n. So multiplying things that have exponents on them, when the base is the same, you can add the exponents. All right, the second one here, x to the m over x to the n. Again, notice that you have the same base here. You can simplify that as x to the m minus n. So when you're dividing two numbers that are raised to exponents with the same base, then you can subtract those exponents. All right, next we have x to the m to the n is equal to x to the m times n. So this is what we call a power to a power. So it's an exponent raised to another exponent. When that happens, you can multiply those exponents. And then the last rule of exponents, x to the negative n. If you have a negative exponent, you can rewrite this with a positive exponent as long as you put it in the denominator. And generally, when we are trying to simplify an expression, we do prefer to have it written with positive exponents. All right, let's take a look at some examples together. X to the second times x to the fourth. So we're multiplying here. We have the same base, x, so we can add those exponents. So this is equal to x to the 2 plus 4, which is just x to the 6. All right, the second one, we have 3x cubed times 4x to the negative second. So 3 times 4, we can obviously multiply those, but for the exponent, we have x cubed times x to the negative second. Okay, so this is similar to the first example, it's just now that we have a 3 and the 4 in the way, but we are going to go ahead and add those exponents. So x to the 3 plus negative 2. Now 3 plus negative 2 is the same as 3 minus 2, so this is going to be x to the first, or just x. So this is going to be 12x. All right, the next one, we have 4x to the fifth over x squared. Now again, we have a 4 out in front. We just know that 4 divided by 1 is going to be 4. So now let's look at the exponents here. We have x to the fifth over x squared. Now remember, when you divide, that's when you want to subtract the exponents. So this is going to be 4 times x to the 5 minus 2, which is 4x cubed. All right, the last one on here, we have x to the 6y to the fourth over xy to the fifth. So here we have two different bases. We have x and we have y. So we're going to treat them separately. So start with x. We have x to the 6th and x to the first. We're dividing, so we're going to subtract the exponents. So this is going to be x to the 6 minus 1, and then y to the 4 minus 5. So simplifying this, we have x to the 5th, y to the negative first, and then this y to the negative first, we want to rewrite this with a positive exponent. So the way we do that is we take the negative off, so it's just y to the first, and then we have to move it into the denominator. So this is going to be x to the 5th over y to the first, or just y. All right, let's look at the next set of examples. We have 3x to the fourth y squared, all in parentheses, raised to the third power. So we're going to raise everything inside the parentheses to the third power. So this is going to be 3 to the third, and then next we have x to the fourth to the third. Now that's a power to a power. Now if you remember, one of the rules of exponents told us that when you have a power to a power, you are going to multiply those powers together. So this is going to be 3 to the third, x to the 4 times 3, which is 12, and then y to the 2 times 3, which is 6, so y to the 6th. And now we'll simplify this as much as we can, which really is just the 3 to the 3rd, which is equal to 27. So this is 27, x to the 12th, y to the 6th. All right, next we have 4b to the 5th, all raised to the 2nd power. So we will square the 4, so 4 squared, and then b to the 5th to the 2nd, that's a power to a power. So I'm going to multiply the 5 and the 2, and that gives me b to the 10th. So this is 16b to the 10th power. All right, the next one, we have negative 2x cubed y to the negative 1st times 5x y to the 4th. Now the negative 2 times 5 is going to be negative 10. Now let's deal with each of the other parts. So x cubed times x, that's going to be x to the 4th. Y to the negative 1st times y to the 4th. Again, we are going to add those exponents and we have y to the 3rd. So that is our answer. Negative 10, x to the 4th, y to the 3rd. We have 6x to the 4th times y, all over 2x cubed, y to the 6th. Okay, so 6 divided by 2 is going to equal 3. We can start there. Now, x to the 4th over x cubed, we're going to have to subtract those exponents. So 4 minus 3 is 1, so this is x to the 1st. And then we have y over y to the 6th. So that's 1 minus 6, which is negative 5. So y to the negative 5th power. Now remember, we want to write these all with positive exponents. And so since we see that y to the negative 5th, we're going to need to change that to be a positive exponent. So remember, the way we do this is we take off the negative, and then we move that whole thing into the denominator. So this is going to be 3x over y to the 5th. All right, next we have 2a squared, all raised to the negative 3rd power. So we'll raise 2 to the negative 3rd, and then a to the negative 6th. Now, since both of these are negative exponents, we're going to move them both into the denominator. Now, what happens to the numerator if we do that? We'll have to leave a 1 as a placeholder in the numerator. So this is going to be 1 over 2 to the 3rd, a to the 6th. And then we can simplify this. 2 to the 3rd is equal to 8. So this is 1 over 8a to the 6th power. All right, this next one we have x to the negative 7th over 5x squared. So we know that since we have x to the negative 7th on top and x squared on the bottom, we're dividing here, so we're going to subtract those exponents. This will be x to the negative 7 minus 2, which is negative 9. And then we can keep the 5 on the bottom. Now we have a negative exponent up on top, so we want to change that to be positive. So this is going to be x to the 9th, that's positive, and we move it into the denominator. Now there's nothing in the numerator, so we put a 1 in the numerator so that we can still have a fraction here. 1 over 5x to the 9th power, and that is our answer.